Hi there, Agile friends. I'll come in here just with a quick note to let you know that the Agile Online Summit 2022 is coming soon. To know more, check out bit.ly/AOS2022. That's all one word, all lowercase, bit.ly/AOS2022. Now, stick around to the end of the episode if you want to know more, but for now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Solihull in the UK is Robbie Ross. Hey, Robbie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to be on.
Absolutely. I think you are the first person from Solihull we have on the show.
Great stuff. Well, there's not many of us around there, so it's good to be involved.
Absolutely. So Robbie is a Agile Practice Manager at Jumar Technology with a passion for working with and empowering teams to foster an agile environment at scale. He's also a Certified Scrum Master, Kanban practitioner, an Agile community member helping teams release their genuine potential to deliver value. And after quite a career shift since he completed a sports science degree at university. That must have been quite a shift there. Yeah. So, Robbie, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Yeah, so like you mentioned there, a bit of a career shift from university, from sports science degree. But like many of the Scrum Masters that I have spoken to, I found myself about 10 years ago in a relatively small organization that talked about utilizing something called Agile, which we now know for the software development, and in particular a framework called Scrum. So the influence behind that was to deliver, more regularly and bringing the customer a lot closer to the decisions and try to get ahead within the market. So, and I'm not understating this by saying that I knew absolutely nothing, and no one knew too much more either on that. So I was on my own really. And at the time, leading that QA practice, I was the nominated Scrum Master and assumed that role with a high degree of mystery, which led me onto the path of research, self-tutoring, and for the benefit of myself and for the team as well. And at that point, I read the version of the Scrum Guide that was issued, which had the chicken and the pig reference, where the chicken was only involved and the pig was committed. So quite an impressive analogy at that time. I've always been intrigued by people and team dynamics and felt that natural appeal to becoming a Scrum Master because of the values it enables, as we know, the courage, focus, commitment, respect and that openness. So the client interaction as well was another key driver for me and the organization in becoming agile or bringing on that Scrum framework.
But that's the first Scrum Master in that organization. I bet there were some maybe blank faces as you started talking about the topic you were researching, no?
Yes. There was certainly a lack of understanding across the organization, which did help at the time because we were all on the journey together. I was essentially the Scrum Master, the coach. I was teaching the organization at the time. It's relatively small, so it was a small knitted group that were able to have that one team, and we were bringing it on all together. So it was a challenge in terms that not many people knew too much about it. We knew why we wanted to do it, but how was part of that journey. So it was a really interesting time.
And as you started working as a Scrum Master and teaching the organization, I bet you have some interesting stories to share with us. And of course, today is Fail Monday here on the podcast. So we want to dive into one of those juicy stories where at the time you tried your best, but the best sometimes just isn't good enough, right? That's why we learn, because we expose ourselves to something that is outside our ability. Now, we don't want to dwell too much on the failure, but we do want to understand it. And then we'll talk about what we can learn from that and apply to our own practice. But before we dive into that, tell us that story, Robbie.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, each and everyone's journey into the Scrum world has not been without its fair share of challenges. And I'm certainly no different. One of the phrases that we do hear regularly is the ability to fail fast. But as we now know, these are all learning opportunities. So But one example I'd like to share, and one that I'm regularly reflecting on, is how I could have dealt with it a lot better, was from a few years ago now, and I was relatively new to the role again, and probably subconsciously felt a desire to please the powers that be, and as it turned out, the detriment to what
How
I
did that come out? How did that come out? How did you, now that you look back, what were the behaviors or the approaches you took back then that today you would identify as a desire to please?
Yeah, so it was moving away from what we knew best as a team.
So people were asking you to do something different from what you thought you should be doing.
Yeah, so it was a case of so where I was working at the time, and without too much notice, we were all called into this meeting, and it was reported that we had some significant global application performance issues flagged by some of our larger clients, and if we weren't to do anything about it, then those clients would leave from that subscription base. So the steer was that we would need to stop all activities and focus purely on these on tuning that performance. And this is where I went wrong. I took the immediate decision to cancel all of the sprints, cancel all the sprint events, and without any thought, the team all went their separate ways. Forming smaller groups and some individuals. And at that point, I now know that we immediately lost all transparency of what was happening. At the time, this felt the right thing to do, was to clear everyone's calendars for the duration and beyond, taking that head down approach, removing anything that took away the time from the team focusing on the task at hand, even stopping on some of the backlog items.
But that's something that I think would be kind of, even if I was there again with you, I would probably agree. Yeah, let's stop all of this. I mean, we do really need to focus on the performance issues. I mean, it is, after all, a business critical issue.
Yeah.
But when did you start noticing that perhaps that had been the wrong decision? What were the behaviors, the symptoms of the problem you had started at the time?
Yeah, so at the time we noticed that everyone started to silo off and started to look at the code for the quick wins, the database queries, problematic areas, etc. But what we weren't getting is the communication. So actually, what are we actually fixing here? Are we addressing the right areas? We did have some.
So basically, what you're describing is that every developer was looking for performance improvements on their own, but there was no kind of coming together and decide what we work on as a team overall.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And working together and suggesting, well, okay, we're going to focus on this area. I'm on this area at the same time. Maybe we could work together on something like this. Or have we noticed any do we have any stats that will able to tell us that we've noticed a problem in this area? Could we address it or not? Or is it a genuine issue or not? That collaboration and that communication across the team was not there. And
and what did that cause then? The communication wasn't there, people were not coming together and kind of maybe been deciding to work together on something that could have an impact. What were then the consequences?
So the consequences of that, it's really strange, because reflecting on that experience, we were loosely given a sprint goal. We had the freedom to decide on how we could meet it. The tools were in place for us to thrive effectively. And within that challenge as well, we demonstrated that we could deploy regularly, daily even, that helped us for the future iterations. But we responded and we didn't react, which was quite good. We reacted, not responded, if that makes sense. We should have utilized those sprint events to drive that clarity, the collaboration across the team, to identify those problems earlier and how we can improve the effectiveness of the teams, and so on. So if there were any issues, we could take them to the team and for them to decide as a group whether we should work on them, we shouldn't work on them, are they priority enough or not. We kind of assumed control over their ways of working, which was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, so but to me it sounds that we go back to this let's get something done immediately type of approach, right? And that's why I said, like, it sounds to me that doing that was the right thing to do. Like, I would probably have done the same decision that you did, and let's cancel all the meetings. Let's just work on this. Perhaps where now, given the experience I have, and perhaps also you, given the benefit of hindsight, what I would have done differently is to have kind of a daily check-in. Like, what did we do today? What did we find? What could we do tomorrow? Do we need to pair or something like that? And the focus of that check-in would be not in terms of one delivery, because as you said, you would be probably making small changes and going into production quite quickly anyway, but rather to get that knowledge to coalesce and perhaps to crystallize into something bigger than anyone could find on their own, right?
Yeah, and we did have those, but I think that we just lost that team togetherness. It was the silo part of it that we did. It didn't feel like, when we had some of those updates, it was, okay, person X has been person A has been working on this, person B has been working on that. And what we were missing was the connecting those together. And that was the key part of it that was missing.
So what would you have done differently if you would go through the same situation today?
Like I said, we were loosely given a sprint goal. We had the opportunities there to decide what to work on, but we shouldn't stop us from doing those small iterative cycles. The likelihood is, we were given the priority as well. Stop what you're doing. This is number one priority. We need to work on them. We also demonstrated that we could deploy, effectively release on demand. So we had lots of opportunities there to learn. In terms of how I would do something differently, I would have tried to build a little bit more of that team cohesion, or maintain that team cohesion that we did have, as opposed to siloing off individuals and having a bit more of a free-for-all. I would have a little bit more structure in terms of what we're going to work on. Maybe for everybody as a team to focus on the top three things as opposed to that free-for-all. So I would add a bit more structure into what we're working on. But in itself, in terms of having a stop everything, we'll review daily, maybe even twice daily, morning and afternoon sometime. Those are the things that I probably would have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great list of tips on how to get over something like this. And I really like the aspect that you mentioned of trying to focus on the team togetherness, because when the challenges are the hardest is when the collaboration is needed the most. The element of creativity that comes from understanding what others are doing and thinking about those ideas from our own perspective and kind of building a third idea that would not be possible without talking to your team members. And also another tip that you shared, which I think is great, is to perhaps crystallize in 1, 2, or 3 things that we are doing as a team, rather than everybody doing something on their own, because then we can benefit from each other's knowledge and experience, as well as build something better than what we can individually and separately come up with.
Totally, yeah. Those 3 things certainly I would do in the future if we were having if we were put in a similar situation.
That was a great story. Thank you for sharing that, Robbie.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around to know more about this year's Agile Online Summit. The summit will have 4 keynotes and 4 tracks you will not want to miss. The keynotes will touch on critical topics for us, from delivering on time to helping you to focus on sustainability. The 4 tracks are tools, so we'll focus on tools you need to excel at your job, but also your mission. We'll also have a track on sustainability, which is, of course, about people and their sustainable pace, but it's also about how do we bring sustainability to the products and the planet we inhabit. We'll have a 3rd track about happiness, talking about doing what we love and, most crucially, loving what we do. And finally, the 4th track will be live. It will be mostly hands-on sessions to help you roll up your sleeves together with the presenters. Oh, and we will also have a coaching clinic, as we usually do, organized to help you discuss and get inspired to solve the hardest challenges you face at work. This year, we'll have a special emphasis on interaction with your peers, so get your ticket and join the Slack at bit.ly/AOS 2022. As always, we have free tickets for anyone that wants to attend live and the VIP tickets for those of you who want to keep the videos forever. So check them out at bit.ly/AOS 2022. I'll see you on the conference floor. Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests help their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.